Welcome to season 2 of Your Tru Awakening for creators and leaders who are done performing and ready to live what they know. I am Sandra Tru, and this season is about one thing, moving from awareness into embodiment, because insight isn't the problem. Most of us already know what's true, right? Most people already know what that is. They're just not living it. They are in insight. And what we want to do is move into actions. Each week, we're going deeper into the patterns, into the nervous system, into the truth beneath the surface, and what it actually takes to create a life that feels like you. Let's go there. I'm super excited today for my guest because he is a transformational leader, best-selling author of multiple books, including a book I love, Emergence, 7 Steps for a Radical Life Change. And his newest work, which I'm reading right now, and I can't wait for you guys to read it. It's called Whole New Human, 10 Ways We Must Evolve to Survive and Thrive in the AI Age. Derek has spent 20 years dedicated to guiding individuals through the profound shifts happening on our rapidly changing planet, showing them how to tap into their inner technology, to evolve their human, become irreplaceable, and make a bigger impact. He's overcome some of the most profound personal hardships, including divorce, the loss of fortune, and the heartbreaking death of his son, to now build a global coaching platform that helps hundreds of thousands of people live their greatest life. As a consultant, Derek has coached top executives at Fortune 500 companies, empowered leadership and cultural transformation, as well as celebrities and media professionals, including Oscar and Emmy winners, in creating content that uplifts and transforms. He's shared stages with amazing teachers and luminaries, including Miriam Williamson, Michael Beckwith, and Wayne Dyer. And his podcast, Emergence, with millions of downloads, teaches timeless principles for activating our deepest potential and living our true purpose. Derek Rydall.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here, Sandra. It's a pleasure.
So I want to start from your last book, Emergence, because I think it is the basis of this new book. So much of trying to fix, of how humans get stuck in trying to fix themselves, is like that chase after something that's not already in them. And I just love how your work focuses so much on nature as a metaphor. And you have this beautiful metaphor that I have heard from several of my teachers before, but you just go deep into it in Emergence and really allow us to see it, feel it, sense it, which is the understanding that you have the power to create the conditions to support your natural blueprint. And I
Yeah.
love that so much. How did this book give you the ground, and why now is like after this amazing book, now this becoming this new book in the age of AI? Like, what is the path? What was the path for you?
Yeah, well, the Emergence book first it was my third book, but my first book around personal development. I'd been in the entertainment industry and done books on that, including one called There's No Business Like Soul Business, which is all about how to be in arts and performance entertainment consciously. But what had happened is I had basically a near death experience after a decade of self-improvement. You know this from reading the book.
Yeah,
Won't
right.
go into the whole story of how I nearly drowned and like something cracked open and there was a flash of light. And I saw that I'd been trying to improve and fix and heal myself for so long. And all that I improved upon was my ability to describe why my life was so messed up. I could tell you why it was messed up, where it had come from when I was 10. And when my dad looked at my report card and saw all A's and a B and said, "What's with the B, son?" And so I could describe all of that, but it didn't make me more whole. It made me more frustrated. It
Mhm.
drove me to drinking, literally, and to drugs and to addiction. And I almost died of an overdose also. But
Yeah.
so I had a couple very intense experiences, but the one experience in the coral reef where I cracked open and I saw this light and I saw the self that I was trying to fix. And I saw that nothing I would ever do would fix him because he was just a fiction. He was an amalgamation of peer pressure and parental fantasies and societal conditioning. And he couldn't be fixed. That was the nature of him. He was not enough. And that was the character in that play. But there was another self, and this self had never been hurt or damaged, so he didn't need to be fixed. And he wasn't missing anything. He was whole and complete, so he actually could not be improved upon. And now I didn't have all the words for it in that moment. It was a flash, it was an awareness, it was an awakening, and Humpty Dumpty fell off the wall and something cracked open in me that I could never quite put back together again in the old way. And when I got out of that experience, I actually pulled out of everything. I pulled out of the entertainment industry. I pulled out of kind of the world in general, and I joined a monastery.
Mm.
Didn't last long. And again, you know this story if you read the book. Shortly after joining and fasting and silence and all of that, I freaked out and I broke into the monk's kitchen in the middle of the night
Okay.
and stole
I
food from the
remember.
and I got violently sick and had an out of body experience for the first time. And I just kind of ran screaming out of the monastery. But basically what I discovered was, which you touched upon, the principle of emergence, not the scientific principle in the same way, but the idea that there's already a perfect pattern within us,
Mhm,
like the acorn already has the oak tree, and everything that is alive comes from pattern.
mhm,
And that there was a pattern in us and in me, and that when the conditions were a match for that pattern, when they were congruent, that the
mm,
pattern naturally emerged. And that was true everywhere in nature, and it was true for us. So I that shifted everything. And I realized that so many of my efforts to fix, change, heal, and improve were resistance. So that was the start of the journey. And that turned my life around from being broken, literally suicidal, to launching my life's work kind of accidentally. And people are like, "What are you doing? How did you do that? How did you go from being broke and broken and all of a sudden your life is flourishing and emerging?" But they didn't say emerging, I used that word. So that was the beginning and everything was working. And that grew and grew for quite a while. And then out of that, I also discovered the principle of abundance and how to generate wealth and abundance. And that was actually my next book, The Abundance Project,
mm,
which is from my work Awakened Wealth, which is again the idea, similarly, just as we don't go and make our life happen, it's already within us. We have to make it welcome. We have to
mhm,
open out a way to allow what's in us to come out. As the poet Robert Browning said, we must open out a way to release the imprisoned splendor. Likewise, abundance, wealth isn't something you add to you like a fruit tree. Its abundance doesn't, birds don't come along and hang a bunch of fruit on its branches and then it goes, I'm abundant like a Christmas tree. It emerges out of it. It has the substance of infinite harvests within it. So I learned that. I began to demonstrate that again from having nothing, defying all kinds of challenges of being broke, of not having enough, somehow being a starving artist, raising a family, getting a beautiful dream house, all these things that began to unfold. And that became the next step. So that because I knew that I had a purpose, there was a pattern in me, and
mhm,
I was able to start to live that, but I also knew I needed to be able to fund that purpose without having to abandon myself, without having to
mhm,
sabotage my true values. You need to have a foundation of abundance so you can meet the needs of the seed within you and live that greater purpose. And so my life flourished to another level. And so that became the main kind of teaching. And then I went through a period of challenges as you described. I mean, I've always had challenges, we all do. But I after 20 some years, I went through a very, very painful divorce where I lost everything seemingly, and I had to dig deeper and I had to go and discover even more fundamentally that I am the source of my life and that no matter what gets taken away, what challenges I face, not only will it not break me, that it breaks me open to
mhm,
allow even more. And I touch upon this in Emergence around the idea of the forest fire doesn't destroy the forest, it fertilizes it and it opens up the seed pods. It allows for another evolution. So that
mhm,
was the first big test of emergence in a way that wasn't just about making more money or having more abundance, but that there was a power and an unbreakable something within us, a pattern again that couldn't be taken away even when your life goes through big challenges. And then I got challenged again after that when most of the fortune I'd built was stolen from me, was in a Bernie Madoff like crime. So
wow.
again, I had to go deep and prove the principle that the source is within me. Even when it all gets taken away, I can build it all back. And I did. And then I got the ultimate challenge, and that was the loss of my son. And to say that that annihilated me is an understatement. There's no words to put to the depth of annihilation that that brings about. And so that was a radical test to discover that there's a power of love and a power within us that even that can't be taken away, even when we lose the greatest thing. And so these were all tests for me to deepen my understanding of this principle of emergence. You said it's kind of the foundation of everything. And to get back to the truth about me and about us that is not, can never be destroyed, that can never be lost. So that as a result of these challenges, when the form that held my love was shattered, my love wasn't lost, it was liberated. My heart expanded to love more, even though I cried every day, literally for 3 years straight. And so when my wealth was shattered, I didn't lose wealth. My capacity to generate it expanded. When the form of my greatest love was shattered, I didn't lose love. My capacity to love expanded. And so that was all the pieces. So then after that, there was a vision that downloaded to me. And the first time this happened,
In COVID.
it was COVID. Yeah. And I said something bad was coming. Nobody believed me, thought I was playing Chicken Little. I wasn't really a catastrophist, but I was like, it's coming. And then COVID hit. We still haven't recovered. But I didn't really speak a lot about it. I kind of kept it to myself because I felt a little foolish, to be honest. And then it happened again. And the vision said, build an ark. The flood is coming. And it showed me that AI was coming. This was before ChatGPT. And it showed me it was going to be one of the greatest, if not the greatest existential crises that we've ever faced. And the biggest reason, not just job loss and all of that, although that will be a big deal, but that it would be the biggest identity crisis humanity has ever faced, a global identity crisis, because AI is designed and is on track to do everything a human can do better, faster, cheaper. And the one thing that humans can survive anything. We've had wars and plagues and famines and catastrophes. There's just one thing we cannot survive, and that's the loss of meaning and purpose.
Mm,
And we literally can't survive it.
no.
When you lose all meaning and purpose, you literally kill yourself or just wither and die. This is what Viktor Frankl discovered in the concentration camps in his book, Man's Search for Meaning. So it showed me that we were already in a meaning crisis, a loneliness crisis, a polarization like never before, and that this was going to exacerbate all of that. And then it also showed me that the ark is our own heart, our own consciousness, a sense of community. It's a container in which, if we are willing to reclaim what is most essential about us as human beings, perhaps as spiritual beings, what I call our original AI, authentic intelligence, ancestral intelligence, ancient intelligence, maybe even angelic intelligence, if we're willing to reclaim these things and even invest more deeply in them, while we're investing trillions in outer technology, if we start to invest a little bit more in our inner technology, that we will not only make it through the storm, through the flood, but we will bring with us a whole nother level of consciousness and capacity and humanity. Like I said before, when you lose the thing you thought mattered most, whether it's your job or your money or your child or whatever, that is not the end. That is the beginning of you discovering more capacity. That is the beginning of real evolution, even a quantum leap. And that's what's happened to me. My capacity to love didn't just go from A to B to C, it went from A to Z. It just exploded. But that doesn't just happen. It happens through an intentional process of evolution. And so that's what we're on the brink of. We're on the brink of an existential crisis where we could lose our identity, and a lot of not so good things will come of that. Or we can claim our identity like never before, know who and what we really are, what we're really made of and made for, and double down on it and come together one by one, two by two, aboard the ark of our own heart and consciousness and community. And we can actually create a new renaissance like never before and create a world that actually and finally works for the highest good of all. So that's the real mission of a whole new human. Is this is our opportunity to become the humans we've always been meant to be, individually and collectively. And that's what the book takes people through is the 10 evolutions to reclaiming that.
Yeah. What I love so much about you tracking all of this is that it's almost like you have been exploring identity from the beginning.
Exactly.
So it's like identity to the fullest form from,
Yes.
and it's my background is in acting
Well
and
said.
directing too. So it's been it almost like even as an actor you were exploring identity, but then it's just like here's
100%.
this story about Derek, and then it's so into the story about Derek, and then you go into having this first impulse of like there's a greater identity that just than just this story and my desires and wants and this thing that is just like what's gonna give me happiness. And then you go into this long exploration and experiential, almost like experiential practice of like, what if I just let it move through me, welcome, right? Like the practice of welcome it, allowing that, right? Allowing that
Yeah.
truth to be an emergence coming from you. And then the beautiful, like almost like higher guidance that is helping you share such an important thing that right now it's like being human is the greatest identity. Yes, it's so amazing to be connected to our spirit and to be connected to our soul. And there's so much of that happening at like I know who I am, but what are we going to do about it? Like how do we embody it? How do we land it here so that it's not out there in the, when I'm in the yoga and the meditation, but how do we live it? How do we
Yes.
live it? Because there's an identity crisis that's happening not only because of people losing what they know. It's just, I mean, I see so many of my clients coming to me with this ache of like almost like they're in the second mountain. They can't, they have been developing an allergy for what they thought they really wanted. And now they're just like on that next thing of like, okay, but how do I do it in a way that I'm not selling myself? I was listening a while ago. Now I'm rereading the Sacred Contracts by Carolyn Miss, and
I love Carolyn Mace. Yeah.
so good. And I'm in the part of exploring the prostitute archetype and how she can be both the part that is just like, selling ourselves, but also the part that's connecting us to that higher faith, that higher knowing that most of us
Yes.
have. And so as you're saying
It's
that,
not the oldest job in the world for nothing.
it's so good. But it's that. It's like we have something that seems like the brand new toy, the brand new candy, the brand new thing to go crazy about with all these revolutions that we have seen in society, which you go into in the book, right? You
Yes.
essentially track all these different revolutions that have given us a lot, but have cost us
Cost us.
hugely.
Yes.
Especially because I've sense, feel, see that the biggest wound that most people are experiencing is feeling like they're separate from life,
Yes.
like that they're not a part of it. Like that
Yes.
there is holiness and those are the amazing people doing amazing things, but I'm not part of that. And we look at birds and we look at animals, how they move from place to place, knowing exactly what time to go. And we're like, oh my God, that's amazing. And we forget that we have that inner compass, inner guidance. And I think that the work that I'm feeling from just getting into this book in the early phases of the book is just like that almost like it's an activating invitation for to really take it on in a holy way, like diving deep into that greater identity that
Yes.
that we perhaps it's like the greatest resource, because so many of us are trying to get the resource and the source out there, the source of my love, the source of
Yes.
my wealth, the source of my worthiness. And this
Yes.
is like being human is the most divine thing that we can embody. That it's not just like, oh, just a human. It's like, do you understand what it means to be human? Like to
Yes.
have this feeling, sensing, creative that has capacity to have memory and insight, and it's amazing. And so
Yes.
it's almost like that. Like, yeah, we have AI
It
and
sounds so much better when you say it too, when you have
ah,
with that Latin accent. "Do you know what it means to be human?" It's like,
what did
"Yes!
you know?
Do you know?" Like, now it's like, I feel it yes, you got me pumped up over here. And I wanna just say, I mean, there's so much of what you're saying, and I wanna just say one thing right out of the gate here. I don't know, I mean, I've done hundreds and hundreds of interviews, and I don't know if I've ever heard anybody in the very opening sentence of a response to me nail it so simply and exactly when you said, "It's all about this search for identity."
Mhm,
Boom, mic drop, right?
mhm.
That's like, you just took my 10-minute long monologue or whatever and just said, "Is it just this?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I coulda just said that." You know, 1 sentence, Derek, that's all you needed. Yes, and it's funny because that's like, it actually hit me like, "Oh, yeah, that is it. That is all it's about."
Yeah.
Because that literally has been my mission for 25 plus years when I first
Yes.
really articulated my mission statement, which is to awaken people to their true identity.
Mm, mm,
That's literally the sentence, and the second part is so that they can live their destiny, and then by that, create a world that works for all, and then it boiled down to just awaken, but it's awaken to what? It's to that, and the
mhm.
one thing that I'm always talking about is the Oracle of Delphi.
Yeah.
It was a woman, by the way, and she issued a warning. People think it's an affirmation, but it was a warning, and it was know thyself. Because if you don't know yourself, something or somebody knows you better than you do, and then guess who's using who? And if you don't know yourself, you can't be yourself. And
Mhm,
if you're not being yourself, you're not being anything that's real, and nature and life cannot help you. Like,
mhm.
imagine if an acorn or whatever could try to be an apple tree, it would remain a nut and it would become squirrel food. Go ahead, you were gonna say something?
No, I'm
Yeah. So there's only one option here, be yourself.
yeah.
That's it, and we've been conditioned almost exclusively away from that,
Well,
and so, you know.
in such a violent way because
Yeah,
the greatest resource, the greatest way to use a human is to use their attention and their awareness. And
yes,
it's like and we also have the capacity, right? I'm currently exploring a beautiful book that's called Dispelling with Tika. I might say, but it's essentially it's a Native American word for the like the cultural shadow that's also in our psyche that just wants to destroy and manipulate and so sometimes we're like, oh, it's outside of us, but it's actually like you're saying, it's like it's that same wound that inside of itself has the gift, right? Like it has the gift. Like the moment that you start
yes,
looking at any shadow actually, and you see it, and it naturally starts to emerge. It's gifts because that's
yes,
the beauty of it. It's like being able to see it also makes you invisible to it. And so, like the use of our conscious awareness to understand where we're putting the eye of our consciousness
yes,
willingly and then to embody, which is I really love how you give such good practices and emergence about this. I still remember them about like how do you actually get it into your beingness as a practice that is where you're seeing where you're being and where you're feeling and actually make it as a creative process of
yes,
getting so clear with what is that wants to move through you. That itself is creation, right? Is expression, right? Like you say that lack is actually an expressed potential. Is that how you say it?
that's
That
what
any lack
yes,
is
any
actually
lack,
expressed
yes.
on express potential, and I loved it. I was like, "Mm, that's so good." So
Yeah, I mean oh,
how
go
does
ahead.
someone begin to, like, recognize what they're not expressing?
Yeah, well, the most of the chronic challenges we have are chronic lacks, are a signal that we're trying to cope or survive inside of a world that's too small for us. And so it shows that it can show up as lack, it can show up as a crisis, it can show up as problems. And what it really is we're resisting or holding back what is in us that's trying to come out. We
Mhm.
are we have adopted an identity. And when you adopt an identity, you then also are part of a story that matches that identity. You don't just have an identity in a vacuum, right? If your identity is I'm unworthy or I'm too much or there's not enough out there or whatever the thing is, by definition, that's going to build a story around you that fits that identity. And we don't experience reality. We experience our story about reality.
Yeah.
That's what we experience. We don't experience reality. We're experiencing our story. It is done unto you as you believe, is what Jesus said. And all the great teachers taught this. You're experiencing your beliefs, which, when they build together like molecules, they build the body of your story. And so it's perceptions, equals beliefs equals a story. And inside of that, you have an identity. And the
Mhm.
problem is, we're often trying to change our world, make it better, make something happen, get rid of this, get more of that.
We
But
got
it's always inside the same story.
Mhm.
It's like if you have a magnet of a certain shape and you put a piece of white paper over it and you put a bunch of iron filings on that white paper, they're going to form in the shape of what the magnet is underneath that paper. Now, if you blow them all off or you do a bunch of work to move them around or even use other magnets to move them around and you let go, they're going to all go zoop back to the same old form no
Mhm.
matter how much you do because the underlying magnetic field hasn't changed. And that's your story, which is locked up in your identity. And so, like when I thought I was still that broken guy who wasn't enough, who needed to fix, heal, change, and improve himself. And let's be honest, there's still parts of that in me. I'm not an enlightened being, but as long as I thought that, nothing I did ever worked, or at least not sustainably. And if it worked at all, it's because I had to use more energy and effort to like hold those parts in place. Because if I let go, it was going to go whoop, right back to the same thing, right? And so that eventually was too much for me to hold. And that's why I broke down and had to lead to compulsive behaviors and addictions. And that could be workaholism, that can be drugs, that can be drama, that can be whatever.
Mhm.
And so when that identity broke in that, uh, you know, uh, labyrinth of a maze of coral reef, when that identity broke, a little bit more of my real identity was able to emerge. And so that's why often a crisis, a breakdown, something gets shattered, taken away, while it feels so painful, it's really the way the universe tries to set us free from a limited identity because you can't hold on to the identity anymore. You can't hold on to the story anymore. And if you're willing to, instead of seeking to put your shell back together again. Instead, like with the acorn, when it's falling apart, it naturally surrenders to the oak of its being. It doesn't try to put the pieces of its shell back together. And that's what we have been trained to do. Hold that shell together, hold that identity together, fix that identity, repair that identity, you know, add something on top of it, add something that makes you feel better, more worthy. But you're just adding on top of a shell of a false identity. When it falls apart, if you surrender not to the falling apart, but surrender to what's trying to emerge. Like one other example, if you plant a tree and it's growing and you also build a sidewalk and some walls and things like that, maybe a house too close to the tree, and it starts to grow. When the tree is emerging, it's going to tear up the sidewalk. It's
Yeah.
going to knock down the wall. It's going to start causing problems in the house, maybe the plumbing. And if you if you didn't understand that analogy, you would think the problem is in the plumbing. And the problem is what's happening is you've built structures that are not a fit for the identity of that seed, that tree to fully grow. And so that's what we've done. We've built a life, we've built an identity, we've built structures, habits based on either I'm not enough, so I have to do more, or I'm too much, so I have to go along to get along, or there's not enough to go around, so I need to want less and just settle for less, or whatever. And we've built a life. But if they're in circles like this, if you've been praying, meditating, affirming, desiring more, you fed the seed of your being, and that tree is emerging, and it's going to start to break down structures that are not a good fit for you. They're not congruent.
Mhm.
So instead of trying to fix things, change things, and heal things, you have to ask, who am I really?
Mhm.
What really wants to emerge in me? If I could really set myself free, if I didn't have to conform to any status quo, if I didn't have to suck my voice down to stay in this relationship, if I could be in my full authenticity and power and expression and be loved and supported, who would that be?
Yeah.
And then that's what you surrender to.
Mhm.
And then you ask, if I was being that person, what would be some of the ways I would think or feel
Be.
or do or be? What would be some of the habits of that selfhood? And now that self is in you. It's not really a future self. Now you intentionally start designing a life that is more in integrity with her or him.
Yeah.
And as you do that, because right now the life you have is based on who you were or who you are or who you think you should be. And that's a constraint that's creating problems, pain, or lack or limitation. And no amount, again, of striving, struggling, building, doing is going to work in any sustainable way, if at all. What you need to do instead is design a life that is in integrity, raise your standards, and then it takes courage and it takes practice to embody that. But it's important to know that the embodiment of that next level of you isn't going to come by waiting for something to change. It's only going to come by you acting from that self and designing and acting as if it's already so, through the fear, through the challenge. And that's how you build the internal structures. That's how you literally embody, and that means no matter what's going on in your life, no matter
Yeah,
what's going on out there, you can always become more and more of the next version of yourself, no
100%.
matter what. Mandela was in prison for 27 years, and he became the president of South Africa and ended apartheid when he left. He didn't do it after he got out of prison. He became the captain of his soul and the master of his fate while he was in a little jail cell. He had the power and he embodied it. And the
Mhm.
people we admire the most, the people that are the most successful or congruent, they didn't wait for anybody to change. They didn't wait for anybody to validate. They didn't wait for the economy to be better. They used the challenges to crack them open, to dig deeper, and to get stronger and to become more of who they really are. And that's what the emergence process was all about. And that's what we're in this book. I walk people through the very specific ways to evolve into that next identity, if you will.
Yeah, so beautiful. I think something that I just want to emphasize, that I hear a lot of people feeling like now they have more things to do. So now they want to fill their calendar doing more things, right? It's like
Yeah.
I want now I have to meditate and now I have to, which is like the practice of listening to what wants to move through you, or in your language emerge through you, is the gift. Like that is
Yes.
the practice is where you want to get to. Because I hear a lot of people get stuck in the, well, I did this and it still didn't happen. I did this
Yeah.
and it didn't. So it becomes a transactional
Yes.
experience, and and it just reveals where people are. And so I think that the biggest invitation, even though yes, and I think the language that you use, which I loved and I kept with me since then, was that is to move from anticipation to participation in the book, right? And I was like,
Yes.
That's good." And so
Yes.
when you move from that, but where are you? But where is the desires coming from? Because there's clean desires of who I know that is the deepest heart, soul, nature of my being. And then there's something that you didn't mention, which is like the conditioning of your environment. You mentioned this a lot in the book. The conditioning of your environment, what other people are wanting and needing and desiring. I remember in a past life, I was working nightlife in New York City, and I would make crazy, ridiculous money doing bottle service. And I would spend my money buying like Louis Vuitton shoes, you know? It was like I just found a pair in my closet the other day, and I was like, oh my God, like literally almost a rent in a pair of shoes. And
Right.
it's the conditioning of like your environment. It's almost like making you think that that's what you want. And so
Yeah.
yes, it's important to be in participation, but most of the time you do a lot more by giving yourself the spaciousness. It's so required that you move from the space within you, from like what is actually. I'm a passionate explorer of the space in between the space, and it's
Yes.
from that place that we take actions that are cleanly us. From that
Yes.
place that we start to embody, activate, develop, try on for fit, these new qualities, these new ways of being, these new boundaries and standards that start to create our new personality that's really reflecting truth. And it comes from that. Wouldn't you agree? I know that you're a meditator. So it's like, and also the not staying stuck in meditation. That's also
That's right.
really nice. I've been there.
Meditation can become another form of
Escapism.
anesthetization and escaping. Yes.
Yeah.
And faith without works is dead. You got to get off the mat at some point
Yeah.
and get out there in the ring. But yes, the key thing is in the most simple terms, there are clues and signals and signs to what's in us that's trying to emerge. And
Mhm.
your desire, as you mentioned, is one of them. And its desire comes from a root of the sire, of the father, of the creative principle. And it's a signal of what's in you trying to come out versus a signal of what's outside of you that you have to get. And so you have to flip it. Your burning desire is like you're pregnant and it's the baby kicking.
Mm.
It's saying, I'm in here. I'm in here. I want to come out, or feed me, or love me, or sing a song to me and nurture me so that when it's time, I will come out. But it's the burning desire. You couldn't have the desire except that it's something in you that's resonating. It's a quality, it's a frequency, it's a capacity. Now, here's the nuance you're speaking to. A lot of the labels or the definitions or the details of how we describe our desires are conditioned, right? So like you said, you buying Louis Vuitton, you got the belief that you have to be, fashion and, expensive this. The people that, they drive around in a Mercedes or a BMW while they're struggling to pay rent in their one-room apartment because they need to play and they give people the greatest gifts while they're racking up credit card debt. There's all these challenges that happen when you don't understand the real meaning of that desire
Mhm.
and it's getting filtered through shadows or values conflicts and things like that, which you probably know a little about if you've
Mhm.
followed me. But the point is that at the root of that desire is still something real, right? Like for example, if you scratch the surface of that desire, you're seeing all these people living an amazing life and you want a piece of that. Well, that's a light shadow. That's a projection of a part of your own power and your own abundance that you're seeing. Now, it's getting filtered through an idea that this is what abundance looks like, or wealth looks like, or happiness, or whatever looks like, and that it needs to look that way in order. But that's what you have to understand. It's a quality and a frequency of abundance. Or again, when it's about money and riches, it's almost never really about the money. It's about a sense of power, a sense of worth, a sense of value, a sense of freedom, etc. So then you get down to, oh, what I'm really desiring is to experience the feeling, that expansive feeling of feeling so good about myself, feeling beautiful or powerful or free and expressive. And
Mhm.
that's real. And
Mhm.
so you don't want to go and become an ascetic and say, "Oh, that's bad to want all those things." No, you just have to understand what is it that you really want.
Mhm.
And then you get down to the understanding that the only thing humans are doing is seeking a feeling. It's a feeling, you could call it a frequency. It's a feeling or a frequency of wholeness, of oneness. And the only thing that we are trying to get away from or destroy or conquer or heal or overcome is a feeling of separation. And you touched on this early on.
Mm.
That's it. That's the whole ball game. Buddha called it craving and aversion, which is desire as the root of suffering,
Mhm.
because we are craving more and more and more of something we think we need that will make us feel whole and complete and good and free and safe. And we're averse to anything that makes us feel bad, i.e., separate.
Mhm.
And it's a never ending wheel of incarnation and reincarnation and conquering and craving and acquiring and,
Yeah.
but that's the false self. The false self. Why? Because it's a sense of a selfhood, as you said earlier, separate from life, separate from existence, separate from love, separate from a feeling of abundance and wholeness, which is what that oak tree feels when it's deeply rooted in the earth and rained upon and shined upon by the sun. It feels one with all of existence and it draws up everything it needs effortlessly and produces acorns and harvests of oak trees and everything in nature.
Yeah.
It's just singing this song of freedom and wholeness and fulfillment. Yeah, you can feel it.
Yeah, it's because and that I'm feeling it because that is how easy it is for us to activate these feelings within ourselves, which is
Exactly.
when
And
I
that feeling,
yeah, when
that's the good stuff. That's the juice.
yeah.
If you will, and then and that's why Jesus said, "Make no thought for your life, what you shall eat or drink, or wherewithal you shall be clothed, neither for tomorrow." Stop worrying about all that stuff. Instead, seek first the kingdom of heaven. Buddha called it nirvana. Lao Tzu called it the Tao. It doesn't matter what you call it. just that you answer the call when it calls you and don't let it go to voicemail.
Yeah.
But you gotta go in and he said, "Seek first the kingdom." What he's talking about is the feeling, the experience of home,
Mhm.
wholeness, that connection again. And
Mhm.
then he said, "If you do that, those things you've been seeking will be added unto you. They will be the fruit on the branch when you are rooted in
Mhm.
your soul, the soil of your soul." So that's it. That's all we're seeking is that feeling of I'm home, I'm whole, I have, I am, I can, I'm able, it's happening. Ah,
It's so
and
good.
and 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 then that feeling will be the frequency and literally the substance according to your unique seed pattern,
Mm.
and it will then manifest as an inspired idea, guidance, direction, right action,
Yeah.
an unfoldment
Yeah.
that the sometimes will look like things just showing up to you,
Yeah.
but
It's like
also will show up as you just showing up to others,
because
right?
it's almost like that. It's like when you feel that it's not moving, it's not happening because you're having to force it or you're having to do it or because yeah, it's almost because you can't help not to. It's
Exactly,
just like you can't help
exactly,
not to. It's just like it's like it's a radiation. It's an
exactly.
expansion. It's like solar, right? And I just love how the yogis and the mystics through all times have been speaking about this, but quantum physics and bioenergetics proves
Yeah.
this, like literally that there is a field that we carry. There's a toric
Yes,
field around us that is
yes,
we're forever feeding with information and pulling
yes,
information from it. And if we're giving any information that we're putting into the field, naturally likes attracts like, and it is physics. And it's
yeah.
like the moment that we remember, because it's not even a teaching, is like just remember that that how that chocolate at your grandma's house made you feel, and like if that gives you that like tickle of like, oh my god,
And the word remember literally means to bring the members back
to
together,
reconnect.
to reconnect back to wholeness. That's what it really means.
And so it's
Yeah.
that, it's like developing the welcoming that we as humans, I'm using your language,
Make
welcoming,
it welcome.
make it
Yes. Or
welcome.
make it happen.
We have the capacity to change our being state at will. And most of us are not practicing that. Most of us are in the being, feeling state, depending on what is being shown to us. And now we're married.
Exactly.
Most of culture is married to a little screen that is using our awareness in the most violent ways of like,
Yes.
sell by, you need more. This is horrible things are happening, connect to other people about all the bad things that are happening. And it's really up to us to become owners of our being state, of practicing
Yes.
this exciting, like I love feeling the sensation of exaltation just because, like that
Yes.
specific, just like
Exactly.
to feel exalted and rooted all at once. It's like I love watching the sunrise, and
Yes.
it's like psychic surgery on a daily basis to me. It's just like
Yes.
I am joyful. I literally create this experience for myself, and I understand the, even though it's subtle and it might seem like non-important, it's so big because I am in a practicing state. And we, as you were pointing out, we're animals. At the end of the day, we're animals with consciousness that
Yes.
are naturally like, we cannot help but be addicted to things. And so it's like you're creating all these neural connections that are oh, that's my gratitude alarm, 3:33.
Right
Thank
on time.
you. Yeah. So we're creating all these neural connections. There's the neural pathway through our nervous system that is giving us those hits, and many of us are getting those hits of like through horrible things, and we're calling things, and we're creating drama, and we're creating like this whole things because we're just used to the voltage that it's giving us. And
Yes.
we can also get addicted, like I call them healthy addictions, to the things that we've been practicing feeling good for no other reason than that. Then,
100%.
like,
100%.
allowing it in, making it welcome. I just love that, making it welcome. And so
Yes.
how do you
You don't have to be a doormat. You can become a welcome mat.
what
Yes.
would be some, like, if we could make this land for people, like, practical, like, how do they, and let's just go with the biggest one, right? And this is about your book. People want to have abundance. How do I embody abundance? Like, what is in, if you could give people one practice of like, how can you not want it, but be it? What would that be?
Yeah, well, again, I mean, it's, it's tough to say these things in a sound bite and for it to really land for people. But the first thing, as we said, is to understand that real wealth and abundance is not about how much comes to you. It's about how much comes through you. Again, the fruit tree isn't abundant based on how much comes to it. As I said, birds don't come and hang fruit on its branches like a Christmas tree. It emerges, right? And so the understanding is that we are not on our way to anything. We're not on our way back home, back to God, back to abundance. We're not on our way to a better day or a better life. The sunbeam isn't on its way to the sun. The branch isn't on its way to the tree. The wave isn't on its way to the ocean. Nothing is on its way to anything. Everything is coming from the one thing, the source of everything. You are emerging or coming from infinity, wholeness, abundance. You are a ray of the sun, a branch of the tree, a wave of the ocean. And so, because you already have it all, you have to understand it as a principle. Now, a principle is a principle. It doesn't mean you see the evidence until you practice it, but it's still a principle, right? And so if you've been living based on the idea that 2 + 2 = 3, you've been shortchanged your whole life. That
Mm.
doesn't mean math doesn't work. It means you had the wrong equation. And so if you've been wiring your wires in your house backwards and shocking yourself and the lights don't work, that doesn't mean electricity doesn't work. It means you don't understand the principle of electroconductivity and it's miswired. In fact, the word evil is live backwards.
Mm.
So when you're doing things backwards, you're going to experience it not working. So it's important to understand the principle. You already have everything. Therefore, if you want to experience more of anything, you must find a way to start giving more of that thing.
Yeah.
You want to have more love? Find a way to be more loving. But start with you. Most people forget that. They're like, oh, I've been giving all my life. I'm so tired of giving to everybody. I'm like, how about yourself? Have you thought about what? What do you mean? Be
Mhm.
selfish. Wait, what? Is that okay? Can I love myself? Yeah. What would that look like? Like if you loved, you can ask yourself, if I just loved myself and respected myself and valued myself, how would I treat myself today? What would I not do? What would I do more of? What would I do less of?
Yeah.
And that was just a prompt and a practice that you did every day and started to design. It seems simple, but it's very hard to really love yourself. Self love is the key to allowing what's in you to emerge.
Yep.
That's why the first two commandments are love God with all your heart and soul, which is really the soul and the spirit within you. So that's the start. Were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was gonna say that it you have it's like unless you make it active, it's just nice words, right? Like self-love is just like, yeah, self-love is trendy, but
Yeah.
what you do about it, I like to call it self-devotion, right? It's actually a
Yes.
practice where I'm like
Yes.
in a devotional act to the God
Yes.
in me. And so I am tending to that spirit or to a little with that much preciosity, like with like treating it as the most exquisite being me. Like I am doing whatever it is and making the call, making the thing, right? I'm doing it for that precious being inside myself.
It's precious. I felt like you're trying to create a new word.
That was
Preciosity.
Curiosity. But you know what? I think that have you seen how the mind actually gets this insane amount of joy when it creates new words?
Yeah, totally.
I'm a fan of creating.
We were designed to name things. Name means nature.
Yeah.
So that's why when you have a spiritual change, a lot of times that you change your name because your nature has changed.
I just
And
took a
so,
name for the Mishtika tradition. I got my new name this year from moon dancing 4 years in a row.
oh, yes?
Yeah.
What's your new name?
Shalshu Yolo.
YOLO?
Shalshu Yolo, which means
Shoshilo. That sounds like a little kid just came up with that. They're like, Shoshilelo.
it's like emanating the feminine force of the waters that cover the earth and emanate from your heart.
I love it. I love that it ends with YOLO.
YOLO. I had a friend tell me it's actually spelled YOLO T,
Oh, right,
YOLO,
right,
and
right,
it sounds
right.
YOLOTL when you say it just
That sounds like Kabbalah almost
yeah,
the way that's spelled.
yeah, it is Mexico. But Same thing, right? It's like the language, that language is a way of expressing our humanity too. And how are
Totally.
we using language? How
And language is even a way of experiencing more of reality.
Mhm. And
The
creating
words you creating and experiencing, the words you use aren't just words, they're representative of concepts. And remember, it is done unto you as you believe.
it. Mhm.
And your words reflect your beliefs and your story. When you change the words, you can start using different words, and it will literally be like it becomes like a portal that will open you up to more of reality.
Mm.
So you can start with your words, you can start with your thoughts, you can start with your actions, or you can work on all the dimensions. But the point is, you want to first start with what's in me that I most want to bring forth? What's the life I most want to live? If there was a genie and it could grant me anything, if I could be the person I most desire, make the difference, make the contribution, the life that just turns me on, lights me up, blows my skirt up, whatever it is, that full on, fully alive life, as Dr. Howard Thurman said to Dr. King, his student, don't ask what the world wants, ask what makes you come alive and do that.
Mhm.
Because what the world needs are people who have come alive.
Yeah.
So, like, you start there and then, like, forget what your parents thought, forget what society wants, forget what you think anybody else needs, forget what you've been doing to please or what makes me come alive?
Mhm.
And then design your life to be in alignment with that, and then choose the words and that represent that.
Mhm.
And when you put those pieces together, like you said, you can live on purpose, not on accident. People ask me, how's your day going? And I say, I don't know and I don't care. I know how I'm going about my day. Or how's life treating you? Don't know, don't care. But I know how I'm treating me and how I'm treating my life. So you are at cause.
Mhm.
The wonderful Wizard of Oz, when they go in the story and they're on the way to see the wizard, what do they sing? We're off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz, because. Don't be at the effect. Don't be a victim. Be the cause. And
Mhm.
what did the wizard say? You always had it in you. Just click your heels. You can go home anytime. You got a heart. You got a brain. You got courage. I can't give it to you because.
Mhm.
And so this is what it's about, remembering that we are the source. We are coming from, and we have to ask if this is true, and it is, and this is who I really am, and it is, how would I show up today? Now, here's where it gets challenging. So you start loving a little more yourself and others. You start giving a little more. You just open up the spigot, let it flow a little more. Now, it's not just going to now, sometimes, and this happens, all of a sudden there's a gusher and miracles happen and things happen. And you're like, whoa, where was all the prayer you've done and all the work you've done that's been held in escrow suddenly just comes forth. And that's wonderful. And then all of a sudden it dries up again or whatever. So it's important to understand that as you practice this, it's not always going to just flow, but that's where the real growth and evolution happens. The first step is, it's like the romance, the grace period, the romance. And when you first fall in love,
Person, yeah.
and it's like, oh my God, I'll do anything for you, and everything's easy. And then it gets hard, and then you're like, oh, something's wrong. Maybe this is the wrong person. It's like, no, now it's time to grow. Now it's time to embody this new high level, to embody it so that you keep dating, you keep loving, you keep serving, you keep shining, especially when it's not looking good.
Mhm.
And then you break through and you become a sovereign capable of loving even when you're being hated. And that's amazing. You become able to be generous even when it appears to be like there's not enough. That's freedom, baby.
Yeah.
And then your life goes to another level. So it's important to know the practice we're saying. Whatever's missing is what you're not giving, start shining, serving, creating, loving first yourself and then others. And then when you hit that threshold, because you will, where it's not working, I'm sad, I'm tired, I'm scared, they're judging me. That's not the end of the line. That's the beginning of real evolution.
Mhm.
And that's where you go, all right, game on. And you dig deeper and you get connected and you get supported. And then you keep showing up and you take the next step. Now you're building literally a new neural pathway.
Mm.
You're literally changing your story. You're becoming a new identity.
Yeah.
That's the
Historical
key.
evidence. You're creating historical evidence of the new identity.
Yes. And you can do that regardless of the
Of the
current evidence.
circumstance, yeah.
You become the evidence. I'm gonna
That
love, you get it? You
that of
get it?
course, I mean, it's so beautiful to see, like, it's we get to sharpen the sword, you know? It's in these moments where it's just like, nothing is working, it's like, you could go back to that if that is just going to indulge with
Right, the universe says, "Your
sword.
wish is my command, nothing
Uh-huh.
is working."
Yeah, nothing, okay. You can say like, "Ah, great, I have this opportunity to really practice this new beingness. Great, okay."
Yes,
But it's like, it's up to you. Something that you didn't mention, which I have a lot of conversations with clients, is like the capacity to go back and change our story from the creative center, from that place that's emerging in us, that we can also go back and rewrite our story. And I think that that is really helpful, that we can do that, that we are not married to our old identities. And
yes,
sometimes it just takes a little realignment of like, maybe I'm not a victim of like the thing that happened. If we could just track it back enough to
yes,
realize that, and perhaps everyone listening to this conversation can have one of those crack moments that have led to the deepest evolution of their life, or the realignment of the path where they needed to go, even though it was brutal in the moment. And so giving people the opportunity to also rewrite, and not only forward, but also backwards, to support whatever it is that they're trying to emanate, vibrate, generate, express out into the world,
to be in alignment with it.
to be in
Well, there was a story about a guy who, he had always had a bad childhood and he was struggling in his life and he was, couldn't hold a relationship and grow and everything, and he was really struggling, and somehow it could have been inspiration or grace. I don't remember how he flipped this experiment, but he said, "You know what? I'm gonna decide I had a good childhood." And he just started affirming it and claiming it and standing in it, and then within I don't know how many days it was, all of a sudden he started having these memories. And he remembered coming home and like his mom giving him milk and cookies or something, and then sitting on his dad's lap and watching TV and laughing. And I felt choked up about it because all of a sudden he started remembering all of these beautiful moments that had all been collapsed and cognitively um distorted because because those a few painful moments can cause your mind to collapse everything else and say life is bad or dangerous or I had a bad childhood, and you then end up deleting and distorting through a cognitive bias everything in between.
Mhm.
And so he had forgotten it all. And he started remembering all these amazing moments, playing, going on adventures, that moment with his friend. And pretty soon he was like, God, I had an amazing childhood.
He's like, it was true.
And then he fell in love, and then he got this amazing career, and his whole life began to reorient around, I had a good childhood. I'm loved. I'm supported. Life is good. Now, what changed? Where he put his attention, but it started with his intention. The intention is like the rudder on the plane or the boat, and it then focuses where the flow goes, and then that allows you to put your attention and to hold it there long enough, like a fisherman or woman casting a net on the right side of the boat instead of the left, as Jesus said. And then you end up going, ooh, that's a better fishing hole. There's a lot of fish there. And suddenly you pull up the fish you were focused on. You don't get just what you want, you get what you're focused on, as you said. You
Mm.
get what you're looking from, what you're looking through, and what you're looking for. And
So good.
so that transformed his whole life. And so I was talking to a friend who's a filmmaker, and I was saying it's like also because she's just produced another, she produces big movies, and she just produced another one, and it was really struggling. And, I've been in the film industry, so I understand you can take the same footage of a movie that's terrible on the first cut, and with a better edit, it suddenly becomes a great movie. And you can even make it from a drama to a comedy or a tragedy to a happy ending just by the way you edit it. And so we have the control to re-edit our life to tell the story we want, not to lie. The material is already there, like to tell a really good story. and to tell a story that is aligned with the life you want to live.
Good.
And then, even with the so called bad things, the betrayals and the abuse and the traumas and the tragedies, believe me, I've had my share, as you guys know. If you expand the aperture of the lens of your awareness, you'll start to see there's a lot more going on, and you can start looking. I want to look for what's the gift here? What's the blessing? What's the lesson? How did I get stronger? How will I get stronger? How will I bring more meaning to my life as a result? Now, it's not easy all the time, but that challenging journey, that grit of the
Mhm.
journey, the dust and the grit, that's what builds character.
Yeah.
And character equals destiny,
Mhm.
not conditions.
Yeah.
So if you're willing to go through that, you will develop the grit, the resilience, the agency, the sovereignty,
Mm.
and the wisdom to know no matter what has happened or what is happening, I have within me the capacity and the power to think independently of all of that. That's called metacognition, and to create by focusing on what makes me come alive,
Mhm.
what makes me more myself, and what allows me to be an ever greater expression of that life. I can do that no matter what.
Regardless, yeah. And that also develops the expectation that no matter what arises, there's a gift, right? No matter how
Yes.
crazy, even in the middle of it, you would start to participate with life in a way that is just like, it's working for me, even in the greatest sorrow, which,
Yes.
and then that is by training ourselves to be able to look for, through, and for something that is forever giving, which, by the way,
Yes.
life is forever giving if we
Yes.
believe.
And even if you don't believe that,
Yeah.
let's just say you don't believe it. Let's even say it's not true. You have to ask yourself another very practical question. Which story or perspective is going to actually help me more or serve me more or make me feel better? I can choose. I can tell this story, but notice how if I tell it this way, I feel a little better. If I tell it this way, I feel a little more power. I
Yeah.
can take a little more. Well, then which one do you want?
Yeah, I mean,
Which story do you think is better to tell? It's like, it's just very practical. Well, but he did that to me. I hear you. That's true. Yeah, he did that to you.
and
Uh, How does that make you feel?
and you're
Terrible.
always gonna be right.
Right.
You're
You can
always
be
gonna
right
get
about how wrong, you
validation.
can be right about how wronged you were. And like, but just like practically, how does that make you feel? It
Mhm.
makes me feel angry, sad, tired. Okay. Now let's look for other options and then keep checking. Now, how does that make you feel? Well, I feel a little more empowered. Okay. Which one do you want between those two? I think I'll take the empowered one, but he did that to me. I know, but which one makes you feel better? And you can work yourself just through logic to go, yeah, why would I want to keep feeling bad? Why would I want to keep giving my power to that? That's
Mhm.
stupid.
Mhm.
Like, I don't care what he did to me. He did it to me yesterday or 10 years ago. Now I'm doing it to me. I'm
Exactly.
not going to do that to myself anymore. And you start to evolve just through that very practical conversation by going, well, how do I want to feel? And do I want to keep giving my precious life force away to an old story or person? So, like, even from a practical standpoint, you can work yourself incrementally
Yeah.
into a story that empowers you, expands you, gives you more life, and allows you to create more abundantly the life you're really made for. That's the capacity we all have. Just
That
takes courage and patience, and it takes a little help from a friend
Yeah,
often.
for sure. Thank you so much for this. There's so much that I wanna add to that, and I know I'm just being respectful of your time, and I'm like, we could go on forever.
Good. I'm loving this.
Thank
I'm
you
loving.
so much. Where can people find you and your work?
Well, they can certainly go to derekrydall.com,
Mhm.
DerekRydall.com, and they can get all kinds of free trainings there as well. They can go to Derek Rydall on YouTube, Legendary Life, and there's tons of videos, or as you mentioned, the podcast Emergence. So there's lots. I give away excuse me, I give away like 98% of my stuff. So there's lots of free stuff to keep doing the work specifically that we've talked about. And of course, I would love it if you go buy the book, A Whole New Human. And because I walk you step by step through to go through these evolutions to future proof your life and your work and your wealth and your well being and really become the person you're meant to be and become irreplaceable in this brave new world. And if you do get the book, go to my site and click on the book page. And if you enter your information, I've built these special AI tools, an evolution coach that will help you take that material and very specifically discover even more who you really are, who you're meant to be, and how to live that life and how to live that work now in a very successful and sustainable way. I've built 25 years worth of stuff into that AI coach.
So
So
cool.
that's just for getting a simple book. You're going to get all that.
Oh, I love that so much. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing and your
Thank you.
aliveness and what's making you come alive and following that and modeling that to all of us. One of my
Thank you,
teacher,
my dear.
Thomas Yeoman, says that the things that make us come alive are like the breadcrumbs our soul leaves for us to remember who we are. So you're
Yes,
modeling that beautifully for us, and I hope we can have a conversation again in the future. Thank you so
my
much,
pleasure.
everybody. If this meant something for you, if this stirred something in you, please subscribe to the podcast, and we'll see you again soon.